last night, the gambling giant Penn Entertainment and the media company Barstool Sports announced they were splitting up. And yes, Neal, there is drama because Penn dumped Barstool for another suitor, the worldwide leader in sports, ESPN. So remember, Penn took a stake in Barstool back in 2020, valuing the company at around $551 million, with the idea of merging its presence in the gambling world with Barstool's presence on every frat bro's Instagram page. The marriage got a little rocky over time as Barstool and Penn tried to roll out the Barstool Sportsbook nationwide, but was often met with regulatory resistance due to Barstool's reputation in some cases. So enter ESPN. They provide a much bigger reach than Barstool with a squeaky clean image. Penn is paying ESPN $1.5 billion over the next 10 years for the right to be its sportsbook provider, with the pair rolling out ESPN Bet in 16 states this fall. Neal, pretty seismic deal, not only for Barstool is left out to dry, but it's wild to see ESPN finally fully embracing gambling.
Right. So Bob Iger, who's the CEO in his previous stint as CEO, he was like, we are not getting into gambling because we are the House of Mouse. We are this family-friendly institution that you come to for your kids' entertainment, and we don't want to be associated with those, unsavory bettors over there. But it's just crazy how the tide has turned since the Supreme Court allowed states to legalize sports gambling. I think about 30 states now offer legal sports wagering, and ESPN is in some dire straits right now. It used to be Disney's cash cow, but as users have cut the cord on cable, ESPN is looking for new revenue streams, and this seems like a pretty natural extension, and Bob Iger has kind of changed his tune.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what I think is kind of funny too is Bob Chapek, which was the CEO in between Bob Iger's stints. His thing, he's like, I'm kind of want to do sports gambling, and Bob Iger was always against it. But this was like the one thing that Bob Chapek did that Bob Iger's like, all right, fine, I'll give you this one, Bob. But I would like to call out, it's not a sure thing that this is definitely going to succeed because Fox Corp and Flutter Entertainment, they created Fox Bet a few years ago, and it's barely made a dent in the U.S. gambling landscape. It's under 2% market share. So it's one of those things where on paper it makes a ton of sense. Like ESPN is by far the biggest sports provider on the internet. So it probably should succeed, but it's not a guarantee that it can just break into a market that's kind of dominated by FanDuel and DraftKings.
Right. We put up a chart on our YouTube page right now that says that shows how dominant FanDuel and DraftKings are. Looks like FanDuel has 37% of the market and DraftKings has almost 25%. And the analysis here was that FanDuel and DraftKings don't really need ESPN. Why did Penn is quite a small player in the U.S. market as we're looking at this chart, and it's like, why didn't ESPN partner with someone bigger? Why did they go with someone who's more a regional player, who's smaller? And that's because DraftKings and FanDuel are doing just fine on their own. They don't think they need you said ESPN has a pristine reputation and all of that, but their reach is kind of lessening in this new age where sports media is a little more fragmented and going into places like Barstool that people are just like, I don't really need ESPN as my news provider anymore for sports, except they do carry a lot of the live games. They have a lot of those rights that we talked about yesterday. So
I'm just nervous about the journalistic integrity associated with this deal too, because now that ESPN's incentives are aligned with the gambling market, anything that they report on that moves a line in either direction ends up benefiting them in some way. So I'm sure they will take a lot of necessary precautions, say all the disclaimers that like their editorial initiatives are separate from their gambling initiatives. But I do just, part of me is a little sad and a little nervous that like this reporting is going to directly influence ESPN's bottom line.
They do already have gambling shows.
They have gambling shows, but now they are directly profiting off of, because they own their own sportsbook at this point.
Let's quickly touch on the Barstool thing, because Penn bought Barstool in 2020, paid over $500 million in total for a stake, and now, according to reports, is kind of just giving it up for nothing back to the founder, Dave Portnoy. It's kind of a sign that this deal did not work out for Penn at all. It thought it could use Barstool's leverage on digital platforms to as a use for acquisition for its sports books, but it just did not work out. And it's kind of saying, all right, Barstool, let's just go our separate ways. You weren't exactly what we needed to grow our gambling presence in the U.S.
Yeah, and you kind of see Penn's stock jumped. At one point, it was up 30%. It settled around 10% by the market close. So people clearly see this as like a positive. I mean, ESPN is bigger than Barstool, no matter which way you cut it. Yeah, and I mean, the reports were that Dave Portnoy was getting his stake in Barstool back for $0. There were some stipulations that went on top of it. If they eventually do sell again, Penn would receive 50% of that like liquidation event. So a lot of people are saying like big win for Barstool because finally they have control. They don't have like these regulators breathing down their neck again. So
right, they got in a lot of trouble over stuff they said.
And
it stopped them from getting gambling licenses in certain states.
Hey, thanks for watching. And if you want more Morning Brew Daily, make sure to hit that subscribe button. And also check out the rest of our episodes wherever you get your podcasts.
New episodes drop at 7 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday, and you can email us at morningbrewdaily@morningbrew.com.